I think I'm live, fellas. I think I'm in here. Shout out to everybody that's going to tune in live and in the archives and whatnot. This is a little bit of a comeback. And this one's not going to be long, man. I busted up my lip, so I can't talk too well right now. The tooth is rubbing up, teeth are rubbing up all against my busted lip right now. But I wanted to give my quick thoughts on the fights over the weekend. And this is when I like to be active on here. It's really bothering my lip, but this is when I like to be really active in here when there's meaningful fights again. And Ramirez and Hooker was one of those fights. And D-Style and I talked about this on his podcast on Wednesday night, giving our thoughts on it, giving our betting preview on it. We both really liked Ramirez in this fight. We both thought that Hooker was going to do some things early in the fight to where he would be able to use his length, would be able to keep Ramirez off of him, keep him at the end of his jab, keep him at the end of his power punches, being the bigger puncher early in the fight. But as the fight wore on, what's up, Brian David? Shout out to Brian David in the chat. I'm going to try to, and YouTube bothers me, man. Off topic real quick. They're doing, right when I get back active again, they're doing away with Google Hangouts. So I don't know what they're going to in the future, but I like doing stuff like this that's off the cuff live. I've always been like that. I like just hopping on here. So hopefully they do a live type thing again to where I just chop it up with people like this. Because this is originally what I got on YouTube for, was there was not too many boxing fans in New Orleans. So I like just hopping on the internet and chatting with people about boxing. So hopefully they come up with a good alternative to the Google Hangouts that's going away. And by the way, Google Hangouts isn't great, but at least it gives us something to use to chat. But yeah, I'd like to get D-Style on this with me on my channel pretty soon, so we could chop it up, and some other guys as well. But as far as the fight goes, Hooker, I just felt going into this fight, and why I urged people to stay away from betting Hooker in this fight, even though he was a slight underdog, and there was some value in that, being that he's fighting in his hometown, and he is a guy who's been in a lot of close fights, had 3 draws, won some close decisions on the scorecards, and being that he was in his hometown, maybe he'd get the benefit of the doubt on the scorecards in a close fight. However, Ramirez came in earlier than I thought, got in his chest, and got this fight over with, and didn't even deal with the scorecards. And I don't know what the scorecards were when the fight was stopped, but it was good to see him get his due and get in Hooker's chest and win this fight and keep it from the scorecards. Because Ramirez is just one of those dudes, man. Like a Baldomir, like a Maidana, who isn't the most talented fighter in the world. Maybe Hooker is a more talented fighter, but Ramirez is just, he's there, man. He's just going to be there. He's going to be there. He's going to be there. He's going to give it 100% all the time. He's going to go to your hometown and fight you. He doesn't care. He's going to bring his lunch pail, blue collar fighter, and he's going to give these guys problems. Being from New Orleans, I am a huge Regis Prograis fan. I hope he unifies this division, moves up to 147, and becomes a star in boxing. I would love to see him do that for the city of New Orleans and pump some boxing energy back into the city, some much-needed boxing energy back into the city. Ramirez is a guy who's going to give him a fight, man. He's a guy that worries me a little bit for Prograis, to be honest. And I think Prograis matches up with him the best out of the guys at the top 140, and 140 is an interesting division. It's been an interesting division. It's not a deep division. Not talented as far as compared to 147, and it's not a sexy division, because it's not a division. When you look at the sexy division, they're sexy for a reason. They're historically great divisions: welterweight, middleweight, lightweight. They're divisions that people put a lot of weight into because of the historic significance of them. A championship at 147 at welterweight holds more weight historically than a championship at 140, which is why you saw Terrence Crawford unify 140. And yeah, was going to move up to 147 anyway. Guys grow out of their body and move up. But he outgrew 147 historically too. He unified the division. And really, a lot of people couldn't even name the guy that he unified the division against when he won that championship and unified the division on ESPN. Us hardcore fans could, but a lot of people, casual fans, and even some hardcore boxing fans didn't know who he was unifying against. So he moved up to 147, not historically the division junior welterweight that welterweight holds. And I think that Regis Prograis is on that same trajectory. I think he's going to unify 140, move up to 147. But I'm looking at the rankings right now. And if you look at 1 through 4, it's Prograis, Taylor, Hooker, Ramirez going into this past weekend. Obviously, Ramirez just unified WBC and WBO. That's significant because Prograis and Josh Taylor are about to fight for the championship of the Boxing Super Series, and they're going to unify WBA and IBF. So that means, and it's like a tournament here, and this is how boxing should be. And yes, I hammer against the belts all the time. The sanctioning bodies, they're terrible, they're evil, which is why I have the Belts Gone Wild series that I've done in the past, and I'm going to pick that up again tomorrow night. There's a lot of bad stuff going on with the belt still. However, when it's done right and when the right fights are made and the sanctioning bodies work together, this is what could happen. And the same thing happened with Terrence Crawford at 140, and the same thing is about to repeat itself where Prograis Taylor are in a semifinal. And then Hooker and Ramirez just fought a semifinal, and then they're going to fight in the championship. And I think it's going to be Prograis, and that's one thing. Tune into D-Style Boxing's channel on Wednesday night because we're going to debate that. He thinks that Josh Taylor is going to be Prograis. I don't think so. And that's a good fight between two up-and-coming undefeated fighters at the top of the division, 1 and 2, in my opinion. And they're going to fight, and then the winner of that fight fights Ramirez, who beat Hooker. And that's how it should be. That's how boxing should be. And when it's like that, you can unify titles. And when you unify titles, it brings more to the fighter. I've said for a while, it used to be belts made the fighter. And now it's fighters make the belts. It's turned into that. So where Terrence Crawford did it right, he unified 140 and it brought more to his name, even though he's a pound for pound guy already. It still did good for him. So now he's like, okay, I did what I did at 140. Yeah, I lost some weight, man. I've been in the gym. Now I'm trying to bulk. Cuddle season is coming up. So I'm about to bulk, go into bulking. But yeah, I lost a little bit of weight for the summer and whatnot. And kids will do that to you, you're chasing kids around. But nonetheless, man, off topic again. Crawford did it right. He used the belts at 140. Then he moved up to 147 to chase the big fights. It's not working out for him because he's a top-ranked fighter in a PBC division. Hopefully they get those politics worked out. But Crawford did it right. I just hope that they can get those fights. I hope Arum can figure out a way to get those fights for him at 147. But I was talking about Prograis because I think Prograis is in that same trajectory. He's going to get up to 147. I think he will be able to do a better job of getting fights with those PBC fighters. For one, he's not the talent that Crawford is as of yet. Crawford's just a special fighter. So he showed more flaws. And number two, I think they'll be able to work those things out with PBC that Arum hasn't been able to do. More on that in another video, but I like the Prograis versus Ramirez. I think Prograis beats Josh Taylor, and I love that Prograis versus Ramirez fight, man. That's going to be a scrap. Hopefully they do it down here in New Orleans, but that is going to be a scrap because I think Prograis is he's better built for Ramirez than a Hooker is. And I think Prograis is about that life, man. He's about that life. He's about mixing it up. He has no problem boxing, but he has no issues getting it in on the inside either. He has no issues with that. He's shown that he has a good chin. Ramirez is not a big puncher. He's a guy who's going to overwhelm you. Prograis is not a guy that's going to be overwhelmed. So needless to say, I think Prograis is the guy in this division, but Ramirez has me thinking, though, like, what if Prograis doesn't show up that night? What if he doesn't show up? What if Josh Taylor does beat Prograis? What if Josh Taylor doesn't show up? I actually, trying to see these, comments as I'm going. I had to do this thing on my, it's harder for me to see the comments. I had to do this thing on my iPhone since the PC is acting up with this YouTube. YouTube sucks, man. YouTube sucks. But here we are nonetheless. But I think Prograis is better built for these guys. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think he's just a complex, more complex fight. He has layers. Prograis has layers. Like, if you get him out of plan A, he can go to plan B. He can go to plan C. He has no issues doing that. That's why I don't see Josh Taylor giving him issues. And I think he'll be able to deal with Ramirez getting into his chest. And Prograis is going to have no issues throwing uppercuts on the inside, hooks off of the uppercuts. He's going to have no issues doing those things, man. He's about that life, and he'll be fine. But I think Hooker will be back too, man. I think Hooker will be fine. There's other guys in that division to where you can throw Hooker back in there with them. I liked his comments after the fight. He didn't make any excuses. He said, man, the ref did a good job of stopping the fight. It is what it is. But this is what happens when boxing is done right, when you unify titles. WBO, WBC, you unify those. WBA, IBF, you unify those. And then we unify everything after that. And we get a champion. And Prograis is going to be that champion, man. He will be that champion, I'm telling you. But shout out to Jose Ramirez. He did his thing in there, stayed undefeated. And yeah, Regis is tough as shit, and he can punch. He can punch. That's one thing people don't give him too, is he does have one punch power. He does. He'd rather he's more of a Greg Maddux type of guy in that he'll change up the speed of his punches. I think he'd rather wear you down, but he is willing to sell out and throw those big punches as well if he has to. And that's what I'm talking about, layers, man. He can box you, but he can slug as well. But speaking of these fights the past weekend, I don't know what y'all thought about Gervonta Davis. It's a homecoming fight. So in football, if you're a football fan, what happens in a homecoming? You schedule somebody that you know you can win. So this was a foregone conclusion that we knew that Gervonta, shout out to Hawker Mustang, giving me that jab. This was a foregone conclusion, right? 21-0, we put in 20 KOs, we put Gervonta Davis in there with a guy. Keep the train rolling. Keep the train rolling. And this is important for Gervonta Davis because you want to keep him in the ring. You want to keep him occupied. I'm not underestimating Taylor. I'm not. Maybe so. Maybe you can make that argument. I'm going to let D-Style make that argument to me Wednesday night. And I'm commenting to the comment on there if y'all can't see, if y'all aren't watching live, if y'all are watching the archive. I'm commenting to the comment that we're underestimating Taylor a bit. I'm not. I just think I just think that Prograis is a special fighter. I do. I think he's a guy who can sneak into that top 10 pound for pound discussion over time as he keeps beating guys and he unifies his title and moves up to 147. I'm not one of those U.S. people that underestimates UK people, if that's what the comment says. I may have misread that, but I've given props to UK fighters before. If y'all don't remember, I'm the Carl Froch. I'm driving the Carl Froch bandwagon. All right, and many other. I've actually overrated a lot of UK fighters. So, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I'm not going to get off of that on that train, but I've overestimated a lot of UK fighters in the past. So I'm not that dude. All right. But I don't want to get off Gervonta Davis because I don't have much time and my lip is bothering me right now from this getting busted up in my lip. But Gervonta Davis versus Ricardo Nunes. This is what you expected from a homecoming fight. He's coming back to Baltimore, getting his shine. Like I said, if you're a football fan, you know what happens in homecoming matchups. You know what happens. All right, the opponent, the contender, comes in and gets steamrolled, and that's what happened. And you want to keep Gervonta Davis focused, because at Gervonta Davis, what happens is, strippers over here. Oh, what's over here? Oh, let me go throw some money over here and some more strippers. All right, strip club over here, strip club over here. You want to keep him focused and locked in. You want to get him dates every 3 months. And you want to get his eyes here. Boxing ring, boxing gym. All right, let me get here. Let me get my miles in. All right. No, don't look over there at the strip club. Don't look over there at that strip club either. You want to keep Gervonta Davis locked in because he's a talented fighter. You see it. It's evident. It comes out the screen. All right. Lines and reference. That was first person I heard saying. Yeah, and we'll do another video about that. I just saw your comment. We'll do a video about that probably tomorrow on the current events Belts Gone Wild thing. I'll throw that in there as well because I did say that. But not to get off topic, I want to stay in on Gervonta Davis because I don't have much time, and I want to speak about Gervonta Davis. He's a very talented fighter. The thing about 130 is much like 140, and 130 is a mess. It's not a very talented division, and it's not a division where it looks like you're going to have unifications like a 140. 140 is not deep, but it's clean. It's a clean division where I said semifinal here. We know who the clear top four are. They're going to face each other, and then the top two are going to face each other. It's clean, although not talented, clean. 130 is not very deep, and it's not very clean. So where you have Burkell, WBC, Farmer, IBF, and Farmer's a guy I like, although he's very cross-eyed. Farmer's a guy I like, 29-4-1, only 6 KOs, but he's a guy that gets in there and works, and he's a clever, tough veteran. All right, and I don't think they want to put Gervonta Davis in there with him, as we've seen. I love that fight if that happens. Number 2 versus number 3 in the division, according to Bad Left Hook. You could argue that Davis is number 1 as far as talent-wise. Yeah, he is very cross-eyed. But I like Farmer a lot, man. I like him as a consummate professional. I like how he talks. He just wants to get in there and get it, man. Gervonta Davis is a flashy guy. He's a flashy guy. Not as professional, but he's extremely talented. Extremely talented. You can't deny that. Whether you love him or hate him, you can't deny the talent. You just got to keep that guy focused. You got to keep him focused. And we got to see what happens when he gets in there and gets tested and how he reacts to a real punch, too. Because we've seen guys who are off the charts talent-wise. Gary Russell Jr. is a guy who comes to mind. Extremely talented, but doesn't want it for whatever reason. Davis, I would like to see him step in there with Tevin Farmer, but from what I'm reading, everything I'm seeing, they don't want that. So you have to call into question, okay, can Gervonta Davis continue to make 130, stay focused at making weight? Will his frame hold up at 130? Will 135 come calling? And if he steps up to 135, will they be willing to throw him in there with Lomachenko? Now Mayweather was talking greasy a year or two ago, but Mayweather was also talking down to Gervonta Davis because he saw that he wasn't utilizing his talent. One thing you can say about Floyd, like I said, love him or hate him, Floyd was in the gym. Floyd was a gym rat. So he saw some things he didn't like about Gervonta Davis, and he said, you know what? Let me just throw him in there with Lomachenko. Let's see what's what. Floyd said Davis versus Farmer will be on pay-per-view next year. I don't know if that's a pay-per-view fight. That's not a fight I would buy on pay-per-view, but I'd love to see the fight. Farmer versus Davis is a fight that needs to happen. There are some other guys in the division. Jamal Herring has the WBO. Another guy who's underwhelmed for me. More on him for later dates. But I want to see Davis in there every 3 months. I want to see him stay focused, and I want to see what he does at 130. And I would love to see Davis versus Lomachenko at 135. I think Lomachenko would eat him up. I think he'd be too much up here for him when it gets into the middle rounds. However, Davis is a guy who, he's intriguing, man. He's intriguing. He's flashy. He sold well at Baltimore. From what I didn't see the numbers. I didn't see what he did. I didn't see the live gate and all that, but it came through the TV that he did well in Baltimore. They sold well. He did well. He showed out, and that's what you do in a homecoming fight. He kept the train rolling. So I'd like to see this picture at 130 get clear. I'd like to see him get clear. And you're right. Floyd's one of those rare guys who can ego trip and ball out and stay disciplined. Floyd could go to the strip club. It's like Michael Jordan. They said that about Michael Jordan. He can stay out till 3 o'clock in the morning and then show up to practice at 6. Certain guys are built that way. 14,681. Woo, woo. If yeah, if Gervonta Davis did 14,681 at Baltimore, you can take your time with him, right? I mean, would you agree with that? If a guy is doing 14,000 plus, I don't care where it is, if it's in his hometown, you can sort of take your time with him, right? You can milk it a little bit. I'd bring him back to Baltimore every 3 months, right? Or somewhere close. I'm not great with geography. I don't know what's close to Baltimore, but keep him close to Baltimore. All right? Keep him there every 3 months. Build him there. Build him up to what they were trying to do with Broner, with Broner at Cincinnati in Ohio. They were trying to do that with Broner, and then you know how that went. Even though Broner's still a sell, Broner's still a strong B-side. But Davis, keep him back in ball. If he's doing 14,000 plus, come on, bring him back to Baltimore every 3 months. I don't care if it's tomato cans, man. Keep this guy active. Keep him in people's faces and build him up. He's a flashy guy. He's a guy who can talk, and he's a talented guy. So continue to do that. I think eventually he will fall. Like you were saying, somebody said in the chat that Floyd's one of those special guys who can ball out and stay disciplined. I don't know from what I've seen that Davis is that type of guy, but time will tell. It's an easy thing to say, time will tell, but it's the truth. We'll only know, we'll know a year or two from now where Gervonta Davis is in his career. You can always tell what a fighter is from how his handlers handle him, and they're being very careful with Gervonta Davis. So to me, my question is, will Tank stagnate being on TV? He will make money, but can he develop into a full potential? Yeah, I agree. And eventually you got to step these guys up because people get bored. And that's where I'm at with, he is young, you're right, early 20s. But that's where I kind of am with Terrence Crawford, to be honest. And I'm off topic again, but Terrence Crawford, I've been speaking highly of him on this channel when I was active back in 2013 and telling people, man, pay attention to this guy. Pay attention. Broner is not the guy. Pay attention to Crawford. And 6 years later, I'm at the point where, the talent is off the charts. I think this guy's the best fighter in the world, but they got to find a way to get this guy in there with somebody. And it's not Crawford's fault. I usually blame the fighters. Oh, they work for you. The promoters work for you. Your manager works for you. Get them. But I do think he's stuck in the middle of some politics, and he just can't get the fights that he wants. But I do believe that next year, hopefully, maybe I'm just wishing upon a star, but Crawford versus Spence happens. Or I don't think Crawford versus Pacquiao will happen now, although it should have happened when they were both with top rank. I don't think it'll happen now with the politics, but I do think they'll find a way to get him in there with a PBC fighter because they have to. If not, he'll have to vacate 47 and go up to 54 and find fights there, although there's not too many interesting fights there. I'd be interested in them. But you got to do something with him soon, all right? Although a guy is super, super talented, eventually people get bored. All right, eventually people get... We're used to the sports world where Golden State has to defend their title every year. And now Toronto's going to have to defend their title. And we'll find out within a year span. All right, the Patriots will have to defend their title again. We need these promoters to speed things up. And it's going back to the very beginning. 140 is a clean division. And it's easier to follow. We need stuff that's easier to follow and not more complex. And I apologize, man. I got to cut this short. I'll be going an hour and a half starting tomorrow. Tonight, I got to take care of this freaking lip that I got busted up working out. So y'all hit me up, man, in the archive. I hope y'all enjoyed this. And I'll be back tomorrow night about 9:30 Central. So hit me up. Peace.